Hi, hello, meowdy you too. Welcome back to another video. It is I, Saphwyn, the silly Nico VTuber, and today we are watching some ExtinctZoo. This is the closest life has ever come to going extinct, which sounds really scary, and I'm really intrigued what we are diving into. Before we dive in though, I do have a Patreon, so if you're looking for anime reactions, early access, exclusive content, or if you just want to support the channel, go check out the Patreon. It's the best way to support the channel. I really appreciate it. The link is down below, and let's dive on into the video. I'm actually really excited for this. If you guys are new here, I've reacted to ExtinctZoo only one time before, so this is my second time ever watching and or reacting to their content. Link is down below if you want to watch the original. Let's dive right on in.
In the approximately 3.7 billion years that Earth has harbored life, it has experienced its fair share of some pretty messed up stuff. This has included asteroid impacts, solar storms, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, fires, droughts, and everything in between.
It's kind
Most
of
the time,
as disastrous as these natural disasters are, it's kind of phenomenal to think of the wide range that the Earth can create. And it's like a weird twisted way of thinking about that. One side, disastrous. Other side, wild that the Earth can produce such a fast amount of disasters. If that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, but I think
such
it's
events
cool
don't actually have
in
any
a twisted
profound
way.
impacts on life, but a few times they do, resulting in an extinction event, which can be simply described as being a widespread and rapid loss in biodiversity. And so far, scientists have
Yeah.
identified about 31 extinction events that have taken place in the last few billions of years.
That's crazy.
Obviously, we are most likely missing a few. But suffice
Definitely.
to say, 31 is quite a bit. And of those 31, there are 5 that really stick out in terms of devastation and scale, being referred to as the Big Five.
Hey yo,
These
wait. That's not even the
stick out
deadliest.
in
Hold
terms of
on.
devastation and scale, being referred
65%, 75%, 96%, 80%, 75%. And this is the one right
to
here.
as
The fifth one is the one that that's the dinosaurs. That's the meteorite hitting the world. So just think that's at 75%. And prior to that, we had an 80% and a 96%. That's crazy.
the Big Five. These, according to most,
That's
refer to the
crazy.
worst extinction events the world has ever seen, with each one being responsible for the eradication of at least 50%
96 is terrifying to think of. I didn't even realize it was that high. That's
of
terrifying.
all species.
They're
Of
all
these 5, the most
They're all terrifying, but that's terrifying.
famous and talked about is by far the KT extinction event,
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
known as the day the dinosaurs died. This extinction was
Sadly.
heralded by a giant asteroid that struck Earth with a force of 10 billion World War II atomic bombs, bringing the reign of the dinosaurs to a
that's so
close
strong.
and killing roughly 75% or more of
Hi,
every single
dinos.
species alive at that moment. It's often regarded as being the most sudden mass extinction event to have ever occurred,
Correct.
with most of the deaths happening pretty much on day one. And to many, namely the mainstream public, it's the worst event life has ever endured. But this isn't really the case, because of
I think it's wild to think this is the one that we all know. Like humans across the world, we all know meteorite took out dinosaurs, wiped out dinosaurs, right? Like we all knew that. I think we were taught it when we were children. Crazy to think that this isn't the most life impacting one out of all of them. It's just the most well-known one.
the Big Five extinction
It's crazy.
events, the KT extinction was not the deadliest, and perhaps surprisingly, it's not even close to being number one.
Crazy.
As that title goes to an event that saw so much life die, that it took Mother Nature about 5 times longer to fully recover from it than it did following the
Wow.
asteroid. This was the Permian-Triassic extinction,
Oh,
also known as the Great Dying. To go
Okay,
back
yeah.
and witness this apocalyptic event, you'd have to travel a mind-numbing amount of time into the past, approximately 251.9 million years to be exact,
All right, chat. Who wants to go time traveling with me? We're going back.
which would have
I'm just
brought
kidding. We're not going back. We're not going
you
back.
to the final days of the Permian period. Even before the Great Dying had begun, things weren't going so well. For starters, the world was still recovering from yet another extinction event that had taken place about 10 million years prior, the Capitanian extinction, which had decreased species richness and contributed to a major decline in sea levels. On top of this, the general state of the climate was quite messed up as well, as Earth was significantly hotter than it is today.
Jeez.
And near the equator, it's thought that the temperature could sometimes soar to around 74 degrees Celsius
What?
or 100
Who's what? Nah. Nah. 74 degrees. Nah.
165 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to literally cook a chicken. And thanks to the geography of Pangaea, with nearly every landmass being strung together,
That's
large swathes
crazy.
of land were simply inhospitable and brutally
That's so
dry.
hot.
And to add fuel to the fire, there was also a giant mountain range that cut across the supercontinent,
Of course
which
there
deprived
was.
many areas of rain,
Of course.
and thus creating pockets of death and contributing to major droughts. Therefore, it's fair to say that simply staying alive was not a walk in the park. So it definitely was not helpful when the Great Dying suddenly sprung up and took out the vast majority of life.
Damn.
For a long time, paleontologists were aware that something unprecedented happened during the end of the Permian, but no one knew exactly what had transpired. And many different ideas were thus put forth, including asteroid impacts, interstellar dust storms, and even that the weather was just that brutal. It wasn't until very recently that paleontologists finally came to the conclusion that the perpetrator all along had been volcanic eruptions.
Ew.
Though these ones were unlike anything ever experienced by humanity. And it's marked.
No, they had to be like rambunctious. They had to be massive volcanic eruptions. Imagine being I know this is like mortifying to say. Imagine being a creature during one of these times. Like,
on the Earth
I
can
feel
still
bad.
be clearly seen today, in a place not really associated with volcanoes, Russia.
What?
It's there that you can find the Siberian Traps, a sprawling region of volcanic rock that covers an area equal to 68% of Europe's total landmass, and is believed to be the byproduct of the very eruptions that created the worst extinction event ever. And the scale of such eruptions would have been hard to comprehend, with estimates suggesting that they were around 4 million times larger than the Mount St. Helens eruption, and that they even
excuse me? 4 million times? Did he just say 4 million? 4 million?
Outclassed Yellowstone's largest discharge, having spewed out 4,000 times the ejected volume. And if the Siberian Traps had been located in the US, the lava flows alone would have covered the entire country in a layer of magma 3 times the height of the Empire State Building.
No! Oh my goodness! Oh my...
At this point, you may be imagining some sort of eruption scene straight out of the movie 2012. But the eruption of the Siberian Traps wasn't actually all that violent, and would have been instead more gentle but persistent and massive, with consistent giant lava flows that took place over an extended period of time. And when I say time, I'm not talking about a few years or even a few decades, but rather hundreds of thousands of years, possibly millions, with the most recent estimates suggesting a duration of around 200,000 years.
200,000
During
years.
this time, the eruptions slowly turned Earth into a literal hell, putting extreme pressure on all that lived. Of course, those...
I want to know, and I hope you tell me this, or else I'm going to Google as soon as this video is over. I want to know what the 4% of species were to live this. I'm very curious who lived this. I'm assuming some sort of maybe aquatic animal or mammal, like a whale or something of like that family. Not 100% sure. I hope you tell me this because I'm very curious.
Closest to the eruptions got the shortest end of the stick, and in the worst case, could have been completely encircled by the lava, as there is a chance
so scary
that Siberia was actually detached from the rest of the world. And thus, given just how much lava was released, animals marooned in Siberia might have found themselves slowly overwhelmed as the sea of lava spread out and engulfed the entire landmass, incinerating everything in its path, with the temperature of the lava flows reaching up to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,200 degrees Celsius.
Hot.
Hotter than a cremation chamber.
Hot. Hot, 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 hot.
Although, with that said, animals in Siberia likely would have died well before the lava ever reached them, as the eruptions led to a drastic increase in forest fires that were so rampant that they have been inferred in the extinctions of specific genera, such as the seed plant Gigantopterus.
Wow.
And we know because of fossil records that many gorgonopsids and therapsids would have been severely affected as well due to their high presence in Permian Siberia.
Everything would have been.
But the rest of the world was by no means off the hook.
Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how grim dark this video was going to be. The title interested me, okay? I was like, oh, this sounds like a really cool thing to learn about. I apologize for the grim dark material. I hope you still enjoy it nonetheless, though. But
Because
I
as the eruptions
apologize.
prolonged, their deadly effects became universal, with no corner of the Earth being untouched. And yet, ironically, it wasn't the constant lava flows per se that brought their devastation, but rather, it was the result of what the eruptions released. As throughout this ordeal, volcanoes were letting out untold amounts of carbon dioxide, ash, sulfur,
Everything.
and chlorine,
Yeah,
among other
everything.
materials as well, which together contributed to well over 200,000
Oh.
gigatons of erupted material. In other words, more than
Wow.
1,000 times the weight of Mount Everest.
100. Nah.
And this sheer volume led to not just one, but multiple
Everything.
disastrous effects. And each one
The
likely could have
snowball.
been considered an extinction event within its own right. So, it really couldn't get much worse than this.
But it did.
Yet, in typical fashion, it did.
Yep.
And it actually got so much worse, as the eruptions happened to take place in the worst location possible,
Of
as they were
course.
situated right above huge amounts of combustible organic material.
Volcano site of coal combustion. Oh, coal combustion? Geysers and hydrothermal magma coal mixture. Oh.
And vast coal beds.
Oh, I
It's
see.
not 100% confirmed, but the idea is that the eruptions eventually infiltrated and set alight these coal fields and material,
Oh my
which brought even more
goodness.
carnage upon the world. What's interesting, though, is that studies on this disaster indicate that it was not a progressive extinction, in that it slowly got worse and worse, but rather it had its ups and downs, with distinct
What?
nightmarish pulses where the majority of the
Ups?
dying occurred. During these quote-unquote pulses, Earth was basically transformed into an unrecognizable wasteland, where animals endured and suffered in many ways.
You know what? Anyone play Monster Hunter World? It's literally like the wasteland, but instead of the freaking toxin, it would be like lava down there.
If you
Absurd.
somehow found yourself
Crazy.
transported back then, you'd quickly realize that nothing was okay. But what would have probably stuck out the most was the extreme heat. As mentioned, the late
yes.
Permian was already very hot, and yet the Siberian traps brought these temperatures to a new height, as the gases and abundant wildfires warmed the atmosphere, resulting in a global average surface temperature of above 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's crazy for the
And to
whole
just
world.
put that into perspective, the current global average
Crazy.
is just 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit.
Does anyone else hate the hot weather? I am very much a cold person. If you guys are new to my channel, or if you guys don't know, I am Canadian. I love the cold. I live for the cold. I like winter. I like the negative temperature. Not too negative though. Let's be real. Like -10 or below, maybe not. Anything above -10, tolerable. Like it's okay. I love the cold weather, and then like I don't know, 15 degrees Celsius is like hot for me. Like not hot, but I'm like, ooh, it's getting hot. Personally, for me, I know some of you guys absolutely love the hot weather. I know some of you guys are like me. You love cold. You love freezing. Tell me below in the comments. I'm just curious. Are you a hot person or are you a cold person?
So far, no conclusive study has suggested just how hot the equatorial regions could have gotten. But
They would've
considering
been
the equator
blazing.
today is about 100% hotter than the average,
Jeez.
it's not a pretty thing to imagine. And imagining what would have
Jeez.
happened to humanity if they experienced such temperatures is another very
Dedge.
ugly thought,
Dedge.
as we have tended to
Dedge.
fare quite poorly when
Dedge.
dealing with such extremes. For example, in 2010,
Mhm.
Russia experienced a heat wave that brought the average temperature for the month of July up to 30 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees
Jeez.
Fahrenheit. And while these highs did not last long, the heat still resulted in over 50,000 deaths. Additionally, the hottest place on Earth, the town of Dalol in Ethiopia, doesn't even reach the Permian average, as it stands at around 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And despite many attempts, the town, or rather ghost town, does not have a permanent population, as every attempt to establish a full-time settlement has failed due to sheer heat. Therefore,
Interesting.
it's safe to assume that we would not last long.
No,
And without
no,
any
we
coverage,
wouldn't.
someone could very likely experience death within less than 24 hours. This heat would have also contributed to forest fires separate from the ones created by the lava flows. In fact, fires started by the heat are actually believed to have been directly responsible for destroying the very last remnants of coal swamps, which had at one time been the dominant ecosystem on Earth.
Interesting.
The forest fires and heat also wound up making another existing problem much worse: aridification. As slowly but surely,
Yep,
much of
yep,
the
yep,
world
yep,
turned
yep, yep.
into a shrubland or desert biome, and there could even be hundreds of miles in any direction without sufficient fresh water.
Isn't that crazy? So this all happened. The whole world basically covered, not whole world, in a way, covered in lava, and they're covered in the after effects of a volcano, whether it be soot, whatever it may be. Whole world, right? Isn't it crazy to think that this happened once upon a time and to see how vastly different and how the world recovered from this? Isn't that just magical? Like, just to think about that, the rebound. That's crazy. I love things like this. Okay, I'm sorry. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I just smacked my mic, and I apologize.
With some studies even proposing that the aridity was the main killer of terrestrial vertebrates during this event. But the world turning into one giant desert still wasn't the full picture, as even if you managed to find shelter, you'd still have to deal with the constant spewing of noxious gases that slowly suffocated the world, with oxygen plummeting at the very end of the Permian to around 15%, which is by many standards low enough to harm humans. As despite the atmosphere currently being at 21%, it only takes a drop to 19.5% to render us oxygen deficient. And things were actually more grim for Permian animals, as many were accustomed to very high oxygen levels, as the Permian had at one point seen an oxygen percentage as high as 30%.
And then
it's
it
also
plummeted.
very likely that there would have been moments where the oxygen dropped even lower, which highly implies that any animal that did survive must have been located in low altitudes. In one interesting study, actually took estimated oxygen levels from around that time and used them to overlay a map of present-day Earth to see exactly where animals would have had a chance of at least surviving from a breathing standpoint, with the red areas representing land where life was unsuitable, while the green areas represent places where life could maybe be supported.
Maybe.
Between burning to a crisp and choking to death during the end days of the Permian, you may not have had the opportunity to acknowledge yet another pleasantry of this extinction event. Radiation. Lots and lots.
What do you mean by pleasantry? What do you... Yeah, oh, yes. Well, yes, on top of everything else, it is now time for me to introduce radiation. Well, yeah, what a pleasantry. So pleasant.
Lots and lots of radiation. Because it wasn't only life that was being banged up by the eruptions. Specifically, the massive amounts of halogens being released ended up causing a severe chemical depletion of the stratospheric ozone layer, leading to massive spikes in ultraviolet radiation. The very same radiation that can give you sunburns or skin cancer today. And you would have needed buckets of suntan lotion to stay safe, as studies estimate that ultraviolet radiation may have ballooned by 400% at the equators, while the polar regions,
that's crazy,
they could have seen an obscene increase in radiation of 5,000%, meaning that simply standing outside for a day would kind of be like being trapped inside of a tanning bed for 4 days straight.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Level, the radiation was so potent that it even left direct evidence behind, as researchers discovered that plant spores from the extinction event were mutated due to the UV radiation. And currently it's thought that the majority of these plants actually died because of these mutations.
Okay, sad. Plant dies. Kind of sad. Kind of really impressive that the biology of the plant can be mutated to that degree in a way. In a way, it's like a beautiful thing, but a terrifying thing yet again. You know what? I wish when I was in university, my courses were this engaging. Some of them were, mind you. Some I had the time of my life with some of my courses. I also took courses where like I was like, oh brother, you know what I mean? I feel like anyone who went to university, school, whatever, knows exactly what I'm talking about. I wish I had more of this flow, you know? It's okay.
But it wasn't just forest fires and radiation that flora had to worry about, as the eruptions subsequently led to a rampant dust cloud that highly disrupted photosynthesis, and acid rain that caused soil erosion. So clearly, life on land got it rough. Yet things were not much better in the water. In fact, marine life actually suffered worse, and the waters got so heated during the volcanic activity that the average surface temperature rivaled the temperatures seen in commercial jacuzzis.
Oh, I forgot. I said that the marine land probably was survived earlier in the video, but I didn't take into the account the lava would have made the water boiling. I did not take that into account when I first said that, but it would be a seafood boil out there in the ocean. That is correct.
Again, you had all the other effects to worry about too, as the oceans dealt with drops in oxygen, high radiation near the surface, and ocean acidification. And this acidity was way worse underwater, as the oceans and seas absorbed more of the emissions, leading to more permanent conditions and a greater drop in pH levels, with studies indicating that in certain areas, the waters were about 32% more acidic than they are today. This increased acidity is thought to have played a huge role in killing vast amounts of marine life worldwide. And its deadliness was not helped at all by the warm water temperatures that made the acidity all that more reactive. You'd think that after naming over 5 different ways that the Permian extinction could kill you, that the list would come to an end. Yet this extinction still had some sinister tricks up its sleeve, so to speak, with one of the scariest things having been the hypercanes.
There's
also
no
known
way.
As super hurricanes.
There's no way.
Now, this...
There's no way we go through all of this to have super hurricanes on top of everything else. Oh my goodness.
This is more of a hypothetical event. But the idea is
hypothetical event,
that if sea temperatures reached around 50 degrees Celsius, or 122 degrees Fahrenheit, then an extreme class of cyclone could form, which would have been so violent that it would have brought untold devastation to both terrestrial and aquatic environments.
Just when you think, just if you're a species that survived, just when you think like the worst is over, you're like, I'm still scraping by, I'm barely living, bam, no, super cyclone, super hurricane incoming, bam.
And while the average temperature did not hit this threshold during the Great Dying, fluctuations in hotspots very well could have, leading to the creation of hypercanes that may have grown to be larger than the biggest storms on record, and if over the mainland US, would have covered half of the country. And it wasn't just their potential size that was terrifying, as hypercanes had much stronger winds than normal storms, with a strong one possibly attaining sustained winds of over 800 kilometers or 500 miles per hour. Fast enough to completely erase reinforced concrete structures and unroot any kind of tree.
Wow.
And these larger hypercanes could likely bring devastation to areas larger than certain continents if on the right path. And even if they did miss you, you were not completely safe, as they were so powerful that their very movements alone were enough to damage the ozone and create dust clouds large enough that they had a noticeable impact on the climate. And on top of all of this, thanks to their central pressure, hypercanes would have had a ridiculous lifespan too, lasting for at least several weeks. And if trapped inside one, it would be like standing at 3,000 meters or 9,800 feet in elevation due to the barometric pressure.
Okay, so nothing's living in this. So you'd have that problem
to worry about too. Though, to be honest, I doubt you'd notice, as the winds would likely kill you before you could even register.
That's what I was thinking too.
Difference. Naturally, with all these problems, the Permian extinction was an absolutely terrifying and catastrophic event, made even more grisly by the notion that this all went on for thousands and thousands of years on end. And when the dust finally did settle, almost nothing remained. And the few who did survive found themselves in an empty and permanently changed world. There is no doubt that all of the big 5 extinction events have been bad, but the Great Dying really took things to the next level, especially when it came to the pure numbers, as some studies suggest that up to 96% of all species died, making it 10% worse than the second deadliest extinction we know of. And while this number is definitely a crazy one, it doesn't do a great job at showcasing just how much worse it was than the other mass extinctions, with a better statistic being...
What do you mean it doesn't do a great job? 96%? What do you mean? I feel like that does a good job of explaining it, but you know what? I'm always up for further explanations.
The amount of biological families that went extinct, as around 57% were fully eradicated.
Wow.
Which may not sound as bad as the 96%. It definitely is once you consider that the second worst extinction, which saw a species loss of 86%, only witnessed the disappearance of 27% of families.
That's crazy.
So
less double than half almost. Yeah.
And to put this into perspective of the KT extinction, the dinosaurs' extinction was not even close to as bad, as the Earth only lost 17% of biological families. And because the Permian extinction was the deadliest ever, it's no surprise that many well-known and then thriving groups vanished. On land, the Gorgonopsids, Meganisoptera, Vigeltosauridae, and Paraeosauromorpha were among the most iconic groups that died off, while lesser-known victims included many families of temnospondyls and untold amounts of therapsids. In the water, the situation was even grimmer. Notable victims included the blastoids and acanthodians, the latter of which are commonly referred to as the spiny sharks. The world also saw the loss of sea scorpions.
This is when we lost our sea scorpions? You know what? Maybe I don't know how it would feel. I'm surprised sea scorpions never like made it back in full force, actually, with everything that's in the sea now.
who at various times in history had been the primary
Wild.
apex predators in the waters. And on top of that, the well-known trilobites succumbed
Aw.
as well.
Yeah.
Quite the historic loss, as these guys were a symbol of success and
Aw.
persistence, and had existed for over
I
250 million
love
years at the
them.
time,
That's
surviving
so
two other
sad.
mass extinctions,
That's so
and were
sad.
represented by over 22,000 species, making them one of the most
Aw.
diverse, if not the most diverse, now extinct group of animals to have ever lived.
But that makes me so sad to think about that. They would have been so cool. I wish. I wish. Oh,
And
sad.
while extinction was the worst fate an animal could have suffered, it doesn't necessarily mean that the survivors were much luckier, as virtually every group who survived still took extreme losses, with the majority having experienced an extinction rate of over 95%.
That's
And for some,
it's
the damage
insanity
proved
to
too
think.
severe, and despite initially surviving, they wound up going extinct not
Yeah.
much later. An example of this can be seen in the Chedonathidae, one of the most successful families to have existed during the late Permian. They, like some others, had originally managed to survive, but were reduced to only a handful of genera, and were far less diverse than they had once been. And the survivors also suffered from stunted growth. And while they continued to live on for another 3 to 4 million years, they never managed to really fully establish themselves.
Isn't it sad to think though you last through such a major mass extinct, and you probably lasted through the other two as well, just to like die out? Like you made it. Like you didn't die to the super cyclone or the volcano or the ash or the radiation or the all of the above. Like you made it. You passed all that, but then you passed away tragically further because the after effects are still affecting you. It's sad to see. It's incredible that you did survive, but also sad to see it happens. But at the end of the day, that is just nature.
With many
Sad
paleontologists
though.
believing that if the extinction had never occurred, it would have lasted for much longer.
They probably
But
would
ironically,
have.
despite most getting a bad deal out of this event, there were a tiny handful that actually benefited from it in the long run, namely the Lystrosaurus, a rather small, unassuming dicynodont. Like most, it came within the brink of extinction, but managed to persist thanks to its burrowing talents,
Nice.
and possibly its
Love
ability
that.
to hibernate, which might have allowed it to survive in greater numbers than its competitors.
Oh,
Therefore,
success
once
story.
the worst was over and it found itself in an empty world, it began to rapidly recover and diversify, and within a shockingly short amount of time, the Lystrosaurus became the most dominant animal in the Triassic
Ayo!
Pangea. At its
That's
peak,
cool.
the Lystrosaurus accounted for 95% of all vertebrates on land, a feat that no other animal has ever achieved, technically making it the most successful vertebrate
Crazy.
of all time, at least in a certain way. Yet despite this accomplishment, life still wasn't easy for this new king, as the Great Dying had left the world in an abominable state, with extreme heat and aridity still being a massive problem that would continue for millions of years after, with some studies even reporting that subsequent extinction events tied to the Great Dying likely happened well after the Permian had came to a close. Overall, the carnage and chaos that the Great Dying had wrought was no doubt beyond anything ever experienced before or after, and recovery ended up being an extremely slow process, as it took life approximately 50 million years to fully recover,
50
meaning that for the entire duration of the
million.
Triassic, nature was still picking up the pieces. And for 5 million of those 50 million years, it's believed that there were virtually no animals at the top of the food chain.
Well,
A
how
strange
could
idea
there
to
be?
think about.
How could
But
there
alas,
be, right?
things
Like,
did eventually stabilize, and the world once again became a place filled with life, with the
That's
early Jurassic
cool.
being about when you could no longer tell that a great catastrophe had taken place. And hopefully
That's
for both Mother Nature
crazy.
and our sake, no such event will ever take place again. Thanks for
Hopefully
watching, and until next
not.
time on ExtinctZoo. Approximately
My bad. That's wild to think. That was a really cool video. I absolutely love that. Please let me know down below if you would like more ExtinctZoo videos. I will be more than gladly to listen to them. Absolutely fantastic. And if you're new to my channel, I don't react to super new content. I like giving the creator their moment to shine and reacting to older videos. So sometimes I see you guys reacting or recommending me videos that are brand new. I wait like a minimum of 3 weeks or so before I even like touch the video to react to it, just for courtesy to the original creator. Just the heads up too, if you are ever recommending me a video, keep that in mind. Like I will not recommend it to me if it just dropped. That's like just a thought to keep in mind. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I guess we comment down the volcano emoji. Like, why wouldn't we do the volcano emoji? That was basically the thing that started all of this. So comment down the volcano emoji. It just shows appreciation and that you hung out with me the whole time. Remember to go check out the Patreon if you do want to support the channel, if you want extra content. And I will catch you guys on the flip side. Goodbye, everyone.